episode 218. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
How's it going, Dave? How's it going?
All right, little delayed this week. My fault. I was old man, tired yesterday.
I was all prepared. You know, my hair was gelled. I was just like, let's get on Twitch and YouTube. And it was like broke my heart. But
I tried to take like a small power nap. And it just was like I woke up and I felt worse.
Literally before we recorded, that was me because the work this week's been crazy. We've been a little understaffed. Yeah. To where like I was like debating, I'm like, if I take I can't fall asleep or else Dave's waiting for me and I'm not answering my phone if I'm knocked out. So I was like, maybe if I just lay on a couch with my arm in the air, that like maybe if I do fall asleep, I'll smack myself in the face and then I won't fall asleep. I was like trying to think of a way because like I can wake up from my alarm after I slept overnight, but I cannot wake up from my alarm from a nap. Because it's like,
so if you set it for like 20 minutes, I'm just gonna turn the TV on, close my eyes, and set it for 20 minutes. You sleep right through it.
Yeah, I'll sleep right through it. Like I need a long period of time to sleep in order for me to wake up to an alarm. So I was like, maybe if I just slap myself in the face, my arm will fall, it'll hit me, break my nose, but I'll be able to record tonight.
I had a busy weekend at work. I worked the whole weekend just because of reasons, and then I had some visitors this week, and it just kind of just wore me out. It's just a lot of stuff going on, lots of moving parts in the adult life lately. So, but it is what it is, and we're gonna hang out for a little bit, talk about some game stuff, and get through this show, and talk to you guys next week. So, all right, we are Digital Days
Dave
Gaming.
Almost sounded like he was wrapping up the show at that point. Like, all right, cool.
See ya. Yeah. We hit an episode, and that's the end of it.
2 minutes count as an episode.
Other companies do it. Other podcasts do it. We are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts Thursday morning, normally 6 a.m. Eastern time. This one you're getting on Friday. Sorry. But you can also watch us live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming. Or you can watch us on YouTube at the same time as well, youtube.com/Digital Days Gaming. You also can listen on almost any podcast platform out there. So if you are listening on one of those, thank you. Please consider leaving a review, also writing words on your review. That helps grow the show. And also just tell anybody about the show as we're getting ready to hopefully see some cool gaming news in June. That a lot of people kind of start tuning in and finding stuff, and usually we see a little bit of spike in listenership around that month. So just tell somebody else that maybe that's into gaming that that we exist, and check it out. With that, everything else is linked in the show notes. Discord, Patreon, digitaldaysgaming.com. Everything is linked in the show notes. Facebook group, so you can join the community, hang out, and just play some games. So we are going to jump right into the news.
Yeah, the first story we have here is Ghost of Tsushima on PC is getting cross-play, and it's getting basically PSN integration that will include friend lists and trophies. So this... I didn't know the multiplayer was coming along with the PC release of Ghost of Tsushima, so I was surprised when everyone was talking about, crossplay is going to be coming over, and I was like, what's the point? It's a single-player game. But Ghost of Tsushima is going to have its multiplayer, and it will have crossplay support. So PC people will be able to play with people on the PS4 and the PS5, which is good that all three versions of the game are going to be supported with crossplay. And you'll be able to use in-game voice chat, though, let's be honest, everyone's just going to use Discord. I guess PS4 people can't, so yeah.
PS4 cannot, yeah.
So yeah, they'll be on Discord on their phones, if anything. But yeah, no, this is going to be a big step, and I think some people were kind of writing this off of like, who cares about, like trophies and stuff like that on PC, but I feel like this is a big deal, as trophy support could draw some people in, as well as just the friend list support. So all this stuff will be just like an additional overlay on top of like your Steam overlay, your Epic Games overlay, to where you can pull up a menu and you can get the basic PSN functionality of, again, friend lists, your profile, trophies, that sort of thing. So yeah, along with that, there was the specs were released for what your PC needs for this, and it's nothing crazy. I mean, you do need very powerful to get that 4K 60 frames, but it's pretty much what you expect for the very low to the very high requirements.
Two things. One, I haven't played this on PlayStation, so I've heard great things about it. For whatever reason, I just haven't played it. I don't know if the PC thing is going to make me play it, but if I would play it, I think I'd play it on PC. Although I think I own it on PlayStation through some form of either my son buying it or me getting it on sale or something.
It was the regular version was a PS Plus game at one point, I think. The non-director's cut, so you probably own something.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing is a question. So now with this trophy support on PC, do you feel like, because this was a lot of people's like hang-ups with their attachment to PlayStation or Xbox or Steam, it was their achievements and their digital, their digital trophy room, digital room. But now that you can essentially, this is probably something they should have done a long time ago, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Yeah, but now you can essentially flex PlayStation trophies without owning a PlayStation. Does that bother you?
No, I've always been open to the more people can play it, the better.
Right.
Like I like getting trophies and like platinum trophies, but I'm not obsessed with like the rarity of the trophies or anything like that. So I'm completely happy this is happening. I kind of hope they retroactively go back to the other PlayStation titles and add trophy support to those.
It would, for the most part, it would just be a matter of them connecting their account to Steam, because I think Xbox does that.
Yeah, so like you'll still get Steam.
You earn the Steam achievement, you earn the Xbox achievement.
They could do that, though I think what they did for Ghost is whatever trophies you earned on PlayStation will just unlock the PC trophy, so they'll be the same.
Yeah, that's what's happened with my Destiny stuff. When I cross-saved my Destiny character from PlayStation to PC, when I booted up the PC version of the game, something in the game triggered all the Steam achievements.
Yeah.
Like, it just did it. Similar to when you go from PS4 to PS5, some people get a second trophy or second platinum because there's PS5 trophies and PS4 trophies. So I mean, I feel like like we said earlier, like I hope that they do this for other stuff. And then obviously going forward, this should be the standard.
Yeah, especially with you can tell like the main thing was this is a good test thing for PlayStation of like, let's see how we can support multiplayer games, because I still don't count Helldivers, because like that's
not Sony.
Yeah, exactly.
They're paying the bill,
but they're not doing the work technically.
Right. And
so
this is
a good
I'm
test.
with you. Like, this is a good test dummy for Concord, where they're paying the bill and the development bill.
Yeah.
This is a good.
What's the other game's name? Dave.
Fair Games. I got it.
All
Fair
right,
Games.
Good.
This is a good test for Fair Games. This is. I wouldn't say this is a needed test for Marathon, because Bungie's been doing it for ever.
But the PSN integration, which is something Bungie will have to get, comfortable with.
Yeah. So I mean, this is great for whatever these service games that are coming out. I think that this is also a great test, to your point of. I hope this means that we see MLB The Show on PC next year.
I hope so too. I hope there's no weird licensing thing that's preventing that from happening.
I know you can play it on PC. You can actually play it on PC through Xbox Game Pass Beta, the xCloud.
Technically remote play through PlayStation, but you have to have a PS5 to
do. You don't have to have an Xbox to do that.
Yeah.
So it's just super interesting just to see the integration, and like we were talking about 3-4 years ago, where the lines started to blur, and now they're very much. Running parallel with each other, and they're weaving in and out of each other now. Of like, I mean, we're probably going to talk about it. I mean, you have it in here in the specs, but like, I don't even know if I want a Pro if everything's going to just kind of come to PlayStation or come to PC.
The key for them is getting the stuff lined up, because it's 5 years since Ghost came out, and we're finally getting it here. So once they get things down to like a year time frame, I think there's a good chance they could end up killing that Pro market, because people are just like, well, why don't I just put that $500 to a PC, which can't buy you a full good gaming PC. But if you're in my case, where I have a gaming PC from 2019, $500 would
a better GPU
get me where I want to go.
I mean, ultimately, you're talking about processor, GPU, and RAM.
Yeah,
and all of those are upgradable and in the order of importance. I mean, I'm not a PC person, but GPU. Processor, RAM,
because RAM's whatever. Like, I mean, you need RAM.
You go to the store and spend like $40 and take care of RAM.
Yeah, exactly. And most people, like, if you've made your computer in the last 10 years, you're probably already rocking at least a minimum 16 gigs of RAM. So like you'll be fine there. But yeah, no, this is going to be like very important. I think this has a chance to really blow up on the Steam charts, because people really love this game. I didn't finish it. There's nothing wrong with it and why I didn't finish it. I think it came out like, I think I jumped into it during the pandemic and I just didn't get to finish because I had to go back to work, sort of thing. So this is going to probably do really well on PC, especially with the Legends mode. I could see that reviving that, because people that I know that got into it, they really enjoyed it and wish there was more. So I don't think we'll get more of that, but
yeah, ultimately it takes a high-end streamer, a top 2 streamer to just be having fun with it, and then all of a sudden you have a ton of people, a huge audience watching it, and then that audience is like, wow, he's having a lot of fun with it, like, let me go buy it, and then they're having fun with it, and then it just kind of takes off, which is kind of what happened with similarly what happened with Helldivers, what we saw during the pandemic with like Among Us. We've seen it happen with Final Fantasy. Like, we've seen huge Final Fantasy 14, huge ups and downs. Like, their player base has always been phenomenal, but we've seen significant spikes when
expansions come out,
or when the cool kid starts playing it. So I mean, I hope that happens with Ghost. So.
Yeah, it could be good, and then maybe this will get Sucker Punch to like hurry up and announce Ghost 2. I think this would be
coming out.
I think this would be a May 15th. This is coming out.
Okay.
I think, or it's May 16th. This could be a good way of being like, hey, June Summer Game Fest announcement, Ghost 2 is coming.
Yeah.
And you can actually turn this into a franchise. Again, I didn't finish this game, but based off what I played, I don't know how you sequelize this, but I again haven't finished it. But yeah, no, this could be a big thing for PlayStation. I did see some of the fanboys freaking out that, like, the question you asked me about, like, are you upset that trophies would be unlocked on PC? I did see some people feeling betrayed, and they're like, I'll just buy a PC and play PlayStation games. And like, yeah, PlayStation, if you're going to buy their game, okay. They're actually taking a loss every time you buy a console. So like,
I mean, everybody says they make profit off, or most of the data shows profit, but I don't believe it.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's just like they'll probably
software is where the money's at, even with the 70-30 split or whatever the splits are.
Yeah.
Like, software is where the biggest return on investment is.
And because Epic Games and Steam beefed, if you're a big enough publisher, it's like a 85-15 split, so it's like even less. So. Yeah. This will be big for PlayStation, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ghost trending and top of the Steam charts if it's not already like top 10. But PlayStation, usually they'll do really good first day, and it shows. I think Days Gone had a really good run on PC, which shows you just like people are hungry on PC for PlayStation games, because Days Gone is kind of mid, but like people were really into playing that. Hopefully the PC players aren't like burnt, because The Last of Us on PC did not have a good launch, if I remember correctly. So hopefully they tighten that stuff up. All right, the next story, Fallout 4 is getting its highly anticipated next-gen update that is arriving next month. They've been promising this for like a year or two now, and it finally came out. This was a thing that, like, I think it was like December 30th, they were like, patches, we're not updating the game before the end of the year, sort of thing. And they'll say, like, we'll figure it out next year. And looks like they decided to kind of line it up with the show, though it's 2 weeks after the show's been completely out and released, because they dropped all the episodes. But yeah, this is going to be like a native Fallout 4 game on the PS5, Series S, and Series X. It's going to feature 60 frames, higher resolution. PS4 and Xbox One players will also see some improvement stability patches, so they're not left completely out of this whole thing. And then the game will get Steam Deck support officially.
Which is cool.
Yeah, which means most handhelds will now probably be able to run it just a little bit better, because it's going to be optimized. But yeah, this is just... I'll talk about the Fallout show later in playing and watching, but this is the perfect time to release this, because the amount of Fallout like thirst right now for a lot of people is at its highest.
You're seeing it surge in Europe. Like, it's like, for whatever reason, it's just taken off in Europe. Like, the Fallout is charting, I think they said.
Yeah, New Vegas. The 4 of the top 10 games in the UK or in Europe are Fallout games, which is just...
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, I guess ultimately the only mistake that I would say is that they should have, like, to your point, they should have done this 2 weeks prior. They should have done this like the same day the show came out. But to be fair, the show came out. Like, I feel like it came out like on a Thursday or Friday.
It was supposed to come out on a Thursday, and then they were like actually Wednesday, and like they just were like releasing it early. That's how and they released it a day early and said season 2's already been renewed. So
yeah, today they announced season 2. But then also I think it just took the weekend for people to kind of get through it, but it's been nothing but praise. Like, and I'm 3 episodes in with Angela, and I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah. It does a really good job. We'll talk about the show later, but like it does a really good job of capturing people's interest that have no idea about the franchise, or then people like me where it's just like there's an Easter egg every couple of scenes, and I'm just like, oh shit, this is really good. But yeah, I'm excited for Fallout 4. I think I've been saying this for years, Dave. Anytime we bring up Fallout, I reviewed Fallout 4 back in the day when it first came out, and I had a really good experience with it. It was actually it was one of those reviews where I was a little worried because I didn't have any bugs, like any game-breaking bugs like you usually get from Bethesda games, to where I think I reached out to some people we know that were reviewing it, and I was like, hey, has your shit been buggy? Just to see if I was crazy. And turns out I was just lucky and didn't deal with too many bugs on my playthrough. But it was one of those things where I gave it a high score. I really enjoyed the game, but I have no memory of everything looking back like 6 years later of like any memorable missions or anything like that. Like, I remember the main story, but it didn't have a stickiness like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas had. So I've been really tempted to go back to this game, and we'll probably hear me talking about Fallout 4 relatively soon.
They're talking about a surgence of 76 players too now as well. They've seen a huge surgence of Fallout 76.
Yeah, all the expansions are on sale on... Well, if you have Game Pass, you have Fallout 76 already. Yeah. But all the expansions are on sale right now, so like that... I've been tempted to go back to 76 as well.
I have never played a Fallout game. Maybe 20 minutes.
You would probably 76 would probably be the thing you would get into. Yeah.
Just a little worried about like the base building stuff, but it could be something I really get into. So
I would say the base building was more a big deal in Fallout 4 than it is in 76. 76 you could just treat it like a Destiny and just like fetch quest and build armor, weapons, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this will be out next week, so April 25th. So expect, will we record by then? We won't be recording by then. Or we would have already recorded next week's episode, so you have to wait a little bit to hear me talk about if Fallout 4 holds up or not. Because I also have all the expansions, and I don't remember playing all the expansions too, when I was like already queuing it up with my PS5, getting ready. So yeah, a lot of Fallout for me coming up. All right, the next story. Hasbro / Wizards of the Coast are trying to find devs to continue Baldur's Gate. So the Hasbro VP of Digital Strategy did an interview with PC Gamer and said the company is actively looking for developers to continue the Baldur's Gate franchise. He is quoted saying, "We certainly hope that it's not another 25 years as it was from Baldur's Gate 2 to 3 before we answer that, but we're going to take time and find the right partner, the right approach, and the right product that can represent the future of Baldur's Gate." And yes, Dave, it was 25 years between Baldur's Gate 2 and 3. There were some remasters and all that in between. But so Larian Studios has been very proactive the last couple weeks, letting people know that they are moving on from Baldur's Gate 3 in terms of they're not doing any expansions or sequels for the franchise. They're doing a clean break from Wizards of the Coast. There were reports and rumors that said Wizards of the Coast were not the easiest to work with. There's a lot of unverified stuff. Larian's kind of come out against some of that stuff, being like, hey, stop like shaming Wizards of the Coast and trying to like pick fights with them. But there were reports that like Wizards of the Coast were just kind of being very protective of the IP, but also kind of telling Larian like, hey, you know, if you cut costs, that would be great sort of scenario, or like, please release this earlier or as soon as possible. So Larian did announce that they do have a new patch coming to Baldur's Gate 3, which is going to add some alternate endings or some extended endings for the Evil playthrough and the Urge playthrough, as well as other like bug fixes and like little, I think it's going to add new music, a couple new tracks to the game as well. So it's a big patch coming to Baldur's Gate 3. And they might not be done patching the game, but they're done doing expansions and all that stuff. But they are teasing that they are doing 2 new projects and they're going to be their own IP. So it seems like they're done working on licensed stuff. But Dave, do you think it's a mistake for both companies to not come to an agreement to continue?
The way that it sounds like Larian Studios is ran, I'm not surprised. Like, this is probably, they have an all hands on deck meeting and they talk about it, and I think the collective group says, you know what, like, we worked on this long enough, we want to do something different. This is what we hear constantly from these game studios, of like these creativities. I mean, we heard it from Naughty Dog. They're like, we're kind of done with Nathan Drake. And that's where we started getting Last of Us. They kind of got pushed back to do 4. I think that's what we heard. Bungie obviously was like, we don't want to do Halo anymore. And then to the point where, their deal with Activision of like, even if they wanted to do other stuff, they couldn't. And then they went on their own and realized they still need, somebody to pay the bills. So I mean, and then you the list goes on and on. Everybody talks about like what Xbox did to Rare, but we don't know if Rare came to them and said, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, it's it's interesting. It goes both ways. Like Toys for Bob obviously says, you know what, we want to keep doing that. And Microsoft told them maybe they don't want them to, and they said, well, then we're gonna split off.
And then immediately we're like, but we'll still work with you because we need money to do what we want to do.
So it's super interesting, but I mean, this was probably, I mean, a 10-year cycle for this company, for Larian.
Yeah, I want to say maybe
start to finish
6, 7 years, maybe something like that. Which you can see why Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro were like, hurry the fuck up,
Right.
Even though
the end result was phenomenal.
Yeah,
but
one of
they
the
would
greatest
have loved
games.
that end result 2 years earlier, probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the game would have hit 2 years earlier, like it hit when it came out. Just because of where the player base was at that time, like where the video game players were at that time. So it's this delicate balance, but I'm not surprised that Larian, the heads of their studios, are probably like, no, man, like we did it, we're good, we made a phenomenal thing. Or Larian's like, we can't do better.
Yeah, and it also could just come down to business of just like, hey, we made one of the greatest games of all time, arguably, or at least one of the greatest games of this generation, whatever you want to call it, because it's PC as well. And Hasbro's like, cool, we made a lot of money, can you repeat it? And
maybe they told him it'll take 10 years.
Yeah, no, and that it could be a thing where like Larian's like, are you going to give us 7 to 10 years again? And Hasbro's like, fuck no, like, you need to pump this out. Or Larian was just like, oh, you know what wasn't fun is having to report to Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast every month or so.
And like, think about this though, like let's just say it's 8 years apiece, okay? 16 years. That's as long as some people. That's a long time for anybody to work for the same company, like, and let alone working for the same company and doing the same thing, similar. Like, I don't know. Let's say you're a combat designer or a UI designer. Like your user interface in Baldur's Gate 3 to 4 probably isn't going to change that much. And so it's like you're working on the same thing. Growing up in Metro Detroit, I had people that I grew up with and on my block that worked on the line at the plants, and like somebody put the same 16 bolts on the same bumper for like 20 years. I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
Like, and like something like this is kind of similar.
Yeah, I wonder if you're a studio, like obviously a studio will take Baldur's Gate. Like a studio will come up and be like,
will they though? Like, really? They're going to follow Larian?
If there's money on the table, a studio will come up. Whether it's a studio that's doing it for the money or because they think that they can make Baldur's Gate 4 are two different two different scenarios. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be like that studio is going to be under a microscope, basically. Yeah. In terms
pumping something out in less than 5 years, that's not good. Like that could be a death blow to that studio.
And the crazy thing is like the characters that were built for Baldur's Gate 3, even though they weren't like all original characters, have their own identity in life now because of Larian. So continuing those characters is going to be so tricky. But it doesn't mean that like, the new studio that takes it over can't pick off some writers from Larian because companies change all the time.
But we've seen that with 343, and everybody's like, "That's not my Halo."
No, yeah, and there was people that were at Bungie that worked at 343, and that happens all the time, and that's going to be one of those scenarios where the studio that takes it, they're either going to take it for the money or they're going to like shoot their shot, and hopefully they can handle it because.
Yeah, it's kind of the same way I'm going to feel about Zelda when the inevitable happens, and his name is escaping me, but Miyamoto doesn't have an impact on a Zelda game.
Yeah,
like,
well, I mean, it already happened. Who's in charge of Zelda right now?
He's still got some fingers on it.
No, he definitely does, but like at least the person he's passed it to for the director is hitting, but like eventually.
Yeah, well, and then you can circle all the way back to like Batman Arkham Origins. That was WB Montreal. Like they're like, that's not my Batman studio. That's not Rocksteady. That's the B team.
And it was immediately like felt just playing it. Yeah. But like people went in with a bias to start. Yep. So like Baldur's Gate,
or like even going full circle, BioWare. Like when they release your Dragon Age game, like that's not the same BioWare.
Yeah, I know. It's that's just unfortunately kind of how it ends up being, and that is going to be scary for whatever studio takes that, because you're gonna have people going in, you're gonna have fans and reviewers that are going in immediately comparing it, and it's one of those things where you kind of would not want them to compare, but like they have to.
It happened. Yeah. I mean, the only exception to this rule right now, I feel like, is Bluepoint, and all Bluepoint does is just take the original and just make it run and work and shinier.
Update mechanics a little bit. Like
they're not resanding the wheel and putting it on a different car.
Yeah. It's not like, like if Bluepoint was like, yeah, we're doing Shadow of the Colossus 2. Like that would make no sense and it would be like blasphemous, but they're going to end up trying to do it, and it's going to be like they're either going to rush it, or it'll be crazy if they give it to a developer and the developer does take their time and Larian's just like, what the fuck? Like, we would have done it if you gave us the time. Yeah. But Larian definitely, like, I guess if you're this studio, you're probably the hottest studio in video games.
Yeah, they have a blank. They're the top tier free agent right now.
And like, if you're going to start a new IP, now's the time to start a new IP, because
people come to Larian at this point. Like money is coming to Larian, to the point of where somebody might come in there and be like, okay, I don't know what you want to make, but here you go.
And the fans,
you can make whatever you want.
The fans will go because it's a Larian game. They've turned themselves into a household name, and they only have like one shot. I know they're doing 2 IPs, but they have one shot to just basically say like, that wasn't a fluke. We are the top tier developer.
It's going to be one of those things. When and if they announce it, it's going to start with like the Larian Studios logo, just like you see the From Software logo, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah. Like when you see From Software show up, you're like, for me, I'm like, oh, this is a game that whipped my ass.
Yeah. Like they're gonna the trailer is gonna start with, from the creators of Baldur's Gate 3, Larian Studios, and then
whatever it is.
Yeah. They basically move themselves into their next game announcement will probably end a Game Awards or an E3 presentation or Summer Game Fest presentation. Yeah. Like they are now a marquee studio.
Absolutely. So.
And bless whoever's
going to probably never play any of the games that they make.
No, you won't. But who knows?
For some reason, somebody comes to them and tells them to make an FPS something.
I was going to say, that was the joke I was going to make. Unless the Baldur's Gate 4 is just like, it takes place in the future. So, yeah.
And Michael's like, you know what? I found an FPS for Dave where he can still romance a bear, but it's an FPS.
Yeah. He's got body armor that he can grind out. All right. The next story, a little bit of follow-up. We talked about the PS5 Pro last week, but this got a little spicier. PS5 Pro spec video that was based on some leaks got DMCA'd by Sony, so copyright claimed by Sony. YouTuber Moore's Law is Dead published a video last week that contained alleged PS5 Pro specs that came from official documentation. Alleged official documentation. The video eventually received takedown notices from PlayStation, and it was eventually completely pulled down. IGN corroborated the information, saying the docs from that video came from PlayStation's dev network, so like the tool set that all the developers can access to figure out what's going on. So the information that was from that pulled video include PS5 Pro CPU will be identical to the PS5, but will feature a high CPU frequency mode that boosts the CPU by 10%, but reduces the GPU performance by around 1%. I'm going to stop there. That is just pretty much what they did with the PS5 or PS4 Pro, where it's just like kind of same hardware, but they, upped and tweaked some things here and there. The GPU will see teraflops increase from 10.28 to about 33. That doesn't mean it's 3 times as powerful because teraflops don't necessarily work that way for the GPU. And then PS5 will possibly feature a PSSR mode, which is their version of DSLR, which is super sampling upscaling. It means it'll just be able to upscale to like 4K pretty nicely. And they basically told devs that there'll be something called PS5 Pro Enhanced, which sounds like basically it'll be another thing you can put on the box that says, hey, this game supports PS5 Pro, PS5 Pro. And this is the thing that I put in here because I just feel like it would bother Dave. So PS5 Pro Enhanced can mean 4 different things. Okay. It's a game that supports the PSSR 4K upscaling and ray tracing at 60 frames. It could also mean a game has a higher fixed resolution at 30 frames per second, so 2160p to 1440p. It could also mean a game has a higher maximum target resolution between 1280p and 2160p or 1080p to 1440p, or the game just supports ray tracing. So a lot of information just thrown in there, but you're looking like Sketch right now. You're just like blinking.
Shit bothers me so much.
I know.
Like it's just like so
that's why I put
like,
those 4 PS5
know,
enhanced.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Like I unnecessary at this point because like my question becomes the same problem that I'm starting to have in general right now with whether it's my PC or PlayStation or Xbox. Like I buying a TV is a fucking headache.
It kind of is. Yeah. You need VRR.
I don't mean to be that guy, but it's like thinking about it. Like the next time that I buy a television, like for whatever reason, if I'm redoing, like I don't know, Angela and I are talking about redoing the master bedroom, and she's like, the TV that's in there is old. We barely watch it.
So move
but
your
I'm like,
TCL into the bedroom, and
yes,
the living room.
but that means I got to buy a better TV for the living room, and if I got to buy a better TV
LG.
for the living room, I wanted to optimize certain things. And when I start looking into optimizing certain things, I'm looking at like a $5,000 to $8,000 TV.
No, the LG is like under $2,000.
But it's gonna support full 1440p, 4K,
yes.
high 120 hertz, like every
they will support most of the things that you're looking
it'll
for.
have enough HDMI ports for me to plug multiple consoles into it and a soundbar.
Maybe two.
Yeah, see?
Two of the good HDMI ports, not like because
Right.
sometimes TVs don't have all the good HDMI ports.
No, that's what I get. Like, I know, like I am my own worst enemy. I am the 1%. Like, PS5, Xbox Series, PS5 Pro. Like, obviously the PS5 wouldn't be plugged in if I had a PS5 Pro. Whatever the new Xbox Series is, whatever the next consoles are. Like, is it the right cable? Like, is it, it's just, do I have the right gamma setting on the screen when I turn it to that HDMI setting? Or it's getting to the point of like where console players are like, oh, I can just plug and play. Really?
Yeah. I just
no, you can't.
So like the specs on it for the most part is exactly what I expect the specs to be, if these are to be believed to be the official specs. But IGN basically was like, these are official documents, these are going to be the thing. PlayStation wouldn't have taken it down. There are thousands of videos on YouTube.
It's the equivalent of going to Burger King and whether you like it or don't like it, getting a Whopper versus a double Whopper.
Yeah, and
get just more beef.
The thing I think that is hilarious though is like they're like, oh, you'll be able to classify your game as PS5 Pro Enhanced, and there's 4 different meanings on it, and I doubt the box is going to tell you how your game's PS5 Pro Enhanced. Yep. So you're just going to see the sticker and you're going to be like, fine, but I know for most people it won't fucking matter because they'll just be like, I just want to play the game. But for people like me, I'm going to look at the specs of the thing and be like, what is it? What is it doing? So then I know what I'm getting. And to be honest with
you, it's probably going to be 90% of it is going to be PlayStation first party. And think that's the part of like, okay, you're just buying it to your one or two games a year will run better. Yes, I know the other studios will like, oh yeah, just it's great, like EA or I mean, at this point in time, it's like I don't even know. Like we heard about like oh it's just like we put in a said game into PS4 Pro and it just did it. We don't know how it did it. It just did it.
No,
because
and
PlayStation
that
didn't
is,
handcuff it anymore.
this is what
You know?
it's going to have, stuff like that. It's going to have
Yeah.
a boost mode like it had on
Right.
PS4 Pro.
But there was even games that even the devs
Yeah.
didn't know would run better, and they just put the disc into the dev kit and like, oh, it just did it.
Well, yeah, and that's going to happen here, and it's you
Yeah.
might end up having some games that get patched after the fact if the studios still want to support like older games
Yeah.
of like, oh, we can uncap the frame rate, we can put an uncap patch, which
Yeah.
happened last generation. So it's going to be just a mess of different support, and the only thing I hope PlayStation does this time is the thing I thought they were going to do last time, where you gradually move to where the only console that you can find is the Pro
Right.
console, and that didn't happen. It was like they released the PS4, they released the PS4 Pro. You could only get the PS4 Pro for a little bit, and then they went back to where the Pro was like harder to find because they were just
It
selling.
didn't move.
It didn't move.
But we don't really know because they just classified as console sales or success.
Yeah, but the
So-
thing is, they could have made it move by just getting rid of the regular PS4, but they just wanted to keep the price as low as possible. But like based on the specs of the PS4 Pro, there wasn't that like it couldn't have cost that much more money than the regular PS4.
Yeah, but this is going to cost $600.
I mean, would they?
It shouldn't cost $600.
It
But
shouldn't.
it will cost $600.
I think they're going to put it at 500. Like it's just going to.
Okay.
This is when they price drop the PS5 a
Okay.
little bit. Just
But that
a
hurts the
little.
Pro sales too to do that, because then it's like, okay, so you take it from $400 to $350,
Yeah.
for the digital, and then you take it down $50. Like, is there enough in the PS5 Pro to make you spend the $500 versus the $450 or $350? Is there enough?
But I would imagine PlayStation kind of doesn't give a shit because they know like the average consumer is just going to buy the cheapest one anyways. Like
So is this for their hardcore player base?
yes, yeah, I think that's what the Pro
Yeah.
was. I would imagine most
Yeah.
of the people that pros last time were people that just upgraded their PS4.
Yeah, I mean, I never got one.
Yeah.
But it would have been a situation where if I needed another PS4 at that time, which I never did, that I would have bought that. Like I
Yeah.
would have bought the Pro as
I
an
think we talked
upgrade.
about it a couple different times of just like
Yeah.
I think was your disk drive started to act up on your PS4 and you were just like
It did,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll get a Pro if I need to.
Yeah, and then I never really ran into a situation where I realized I was just buying more digital stuff anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think that would be the same situation. I'd be annoyed if my PS5 died in the next year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd have to see something. Something would have to wow me in Wolverine or something, or Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man.
The only thing that's going to suck is a lot of these things that they're touting, which is just the upscaling, ray tracing, frame rate. It's really hard to convey that in a video that's like
Right.
compressed.
I would almost
stream?
have to wait. This would be something that I would just have to watch the hour long video that Digital Foundry does,
Yeah.
and then tell me if it's worth it or not.
Basically,
You know,
because it's going to be like, well, I can't tell on this YouTube
and
stream.
they would need to get it into Digital Foundry's hands as fast as possible.
Probably,
Sony would need to. I mean, so
yeah. But yeah,
because you're right. You can't just put a trailer up there and be like, I'm just talking on my ass here, but Uncharted 5 now shinier, and everybody's like,
you can
like, over Twitch, you
kinda-
can't tell that on
yeah.
my phone.
yeah. When they were doing the ray tracing for Spider-Man, you can tell the reflections, but that was about
Yeah.
it. Like what the
Well,
reflection.
I remember
upgrades.
Josh talking about it. Josh Langford talking about it when they showed it off in New York or whatever, and they clicked it on and clicked it off, clicked it on, clicked it off. Like you could see it because
Yeah.
you were seeing good and bad. Like when you go to the eye doctor, better, worse.
Yeah,
better,
I
worse.
did that during when I was playing Ratchet and Clank,
Yeah,
like turning it
And-
on
and
and off,
it's-
or like ray
it's the
tracing.
same
on
way.
and off.
Like if I'm Vizio, like don't ever put my TV next to LG. Like it's not allowed.
Yeah.
like like so. But to your point, Michael, they can't just walk out on stage with Andrew House or whatever and say, hey, blah, and
Yeah.
like it don't work.
Yeah, they and again, like the specs they're showing, it's not going to be like a big jump towards like, oh look, we can fit 100 more people on the screen, and it's like something like that you can visually tell has been upgraded. It's going to be a
Days
lot
Gone remastered now with more things.
more. What were they called?
I don't remember. Creepers.
Freakers.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I pulled that out of nowhere, by the way.
Oh God, that just gave me like PTSD of like being corrected at the PlayStation booth of being like, oh, how many zombies? And they're just like, no, they're not zombies, they're freakers. And be like, come, dude, I know you're wearing a Days Gone shirt, but come on, man. But I also can imagine being on their end of being like, we named them freakers, please. Like,
yeah. So is that it for that?
That'd be it for that.
Okay. I didn't tell you I was doing this, and I actually just kind of jaunted in my head. It's nothing crazy or major, but I don't know if you were aware of this, or if you have you heard of the podcast Married to the Games?
No.
Okay. So Married to the Games is a podcast that I listened to for a while. I haven't really been listening to gaming podcast in general, but they got up to like 600 episodes. I know a couple people in here that listen to us for a long time have been fans of them as well. Gabe Patillo, one of the main hosts, and he also did a bunch of stuff. He was in lots of Christian music and stuff like. He passed away he had a 2-month battle of cancer, and he just passed away this last week. So, if you are a fan of them, or in general, anybody losing their life sucks. So there's not really a great way to transition out of it, but I wanted to, just to make sure that we paid our respects to just a great person. And any video game podcast that makes it to 600 episodes is phenomenal. Any podcast for that matter that makes it to 600 episodes, and for anybody to lose a husband and a father, and it was just a very short battle with cancer, and he did a lot of stuff for the gospel music and everything as well, and it's just the world lost a great person. So there's not any proper way to transition to that, especially when you and I are going to talk about Fallout. But
nothing was delayed, Dave.
Yeah. So. All right, so what we're playing and watching. I think that we'll just transition this together because so real quick for me, I've been messing around with Destiny, and that's really all I've been doing with this Into the Light update. It's a very fun horde mode just to kill and just mow through stuff. Like you're talking about, it takes an hour to do all 50 waves of this thing, but you're talking about almost everybody in your team getting 500 to 700 kills during these waves, and just really kind of it's really kind of brought out the fun in Destiny for me again of messing with my builds and changing different things. And they're still tweaking it, and and then the reveal that they did for the final shape is still, it just brought the hype up. I haven't seen if any pre-order numbers are looking better. I haven't heard if they said anything or anything like that, but I've been just dabbling with Destiny. And based on what we were just talking about earlier, the little bit of the hype around Fallout, the television show, I asked Angela if she wanted to watch it, and she's like, okay. First of all, my negative comment is these episodes are too long.
They were so good though.
I know.
I will say I think they feel longer, but because there's at least 3 times per episode that you're expecting it to have a cliffhanger ending, and then it's like, nope, one more scene or 2 more scenes.
Yeah, but they're like an hour and 15 minutes. Hour 10.
I think this
maybe
like a flat
maybe
hour.
An hour 5 with credits.
The first episode maybe, but the rest are usually an hour, a little under an hour.
Yeah. It's super interesting with the character introduction. I understand it's an Amazon show, so I guess I expect it, but it's very graphic.
Yeah.
So, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm definitely intrigued. It's not always holding my attention at every point because I'm still trying to figure things out because I don't really understand the backstory, and I don't have the patience to try to either look it up or just wait for it to be kind of unpacked to me. But it's slowly getting unpacked a little bit better. I think they did a really good job in the first episode with the character introduction of saying hey, here's Maximus, here's the ghoul, here's I can't
Lucy.
think of her name right now, Lucy. That stuff. I think that I don't know enough about Fallout. Did they talk about in the games time spent in the vault? Was that?
Yeah. Okay. I've been watching the show, finished the entire show. We ended up doing 3 episodes the first day, 3 episodes the second day, something like that. But yeah, they already said this is lore. This does follow the video game timeline. It's not an adaptation, it's a continuation. So yeah, this is basically takes place in what, 2296, so it's 15 years after 4 or New Vegas, so it's within like 15 to 20 years of those two games. So yeah, it's takes place there, but like the bombs basically dropped like 200 years previous from there. I know this show can be a little confusing. A lot of people get kind of caught up with like, why does everything look like the 60s sort of thing, and like, why hasn't life rebuilt in the 200 years since the bombs went off? And that's some of the stuff that the show doesn't do a great job of explaining it. You kind of have to jump into like some research to figure out like why some aesthetic choices were made and why certain things happened. But in terms of like it continuing the stories of the game, or at least not directly, like you're not getting like, oh, that character's from this game, that character's from that game, but continuing the lore and the world building, like it fits perfectly in there and is a good continuation. And they do reference some of the game stuff. They're outside of just Easter eggs. Like the thing I think Fallout, the TV show, does really good with as a way to reference the old games and some of the stuff that was said in the old games is the fact that, and this isn't a big spoiler, is you see stuff pre-war or pre-bombs drop. Like you see stuff in the future, and then you also get flashbacks to the past that I think people like me are really excited about, because you don't spend like any time in the games really outside of 4 for like 10 minutes
pre-bomb
drop. So getting that,
like the immediate question that I have, like, and I'm sorry, but like the immediate question I have watching this is like, how did people get in the vaults before the bombs dropped?
Okay, so the show will fully explain that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but basically, Vault-Tec was a company. There was a big war between it was U.S. and China, and it was basically World War going on. And a company named Vault-Tec were making vaults all over America and selling spaces to people that could afford to go into vaults. Yeah. So like there were vaults built, like every town that could afford a vault, you would just, as soon as the bombs start dropping, you'd like run to your vault and get in there. And then that's when Fallout stuff happens, where you found out most of the vaults were experiment vaults, because reasons that the show will explain, and does a really good job of explaining that outright, as opposed to in the games where stuff's alluded to, never directly confirmed in some aspects. In the shows, it's like, no, we're just going to spell that out because we're a TV show and we kind of need to do this. Yeah,
like I get the concept of the ghoul. Like I'm seeing his character, like his character arc is connecting better for me right now in the first 3 episodes than Lucy's character is connecting for me. So
yeah, and I think that's definitely intentional based on how they're building those characters out. The ghoul is like very much the glue of like all the lore that is being dumped on you episode after episode. Yeah. And it did a really good job. I was so happy when they cast Walter Goggins, because he's amazing and Justified. And I always wanted to see him get like a major lead role, and he's phenomenal as the ghoul. And like his ability to like do storytelling in the past and the present day is just fantastic. Yeah. I will say, I don't know if this show, like The Last of Us was great and it was like award bait, basically. Yeah. This show might be not serious enough for it to get awards.
Right, I agree.
Because it's pretty wacky, but I do think there's performances in the show that deserve to be awarded something. Because it's fantastic.
No, I think like I said, I am intrigued. So here's the balance that I have. There's been times like with the Marvel stuff, like I remember like WandaVision, and like where I watched an episode of WandaVision, or I watched 2 episodes of WandaVision, and then I had to watch like a YouTuber explain it to me. Like I don't feel that right now with Fallout. So again, if you go ahead, I
think that's a mistake on Amazon, because they should have did this week to week. As someone that binged it,
but even watching an episode though, I didn't like. And what I mean is, like, I don't feel like I needed like I finished episode 1. I need to have somebody explain to me the innuendos of what happened in episode 1. I think that I feel that they did a good enough job of weaving everything
Mm-hmm.
together to where I'm like, okay, I'll watch the next one.
Yeah.
Versus before where I'm like, when I got done with WandaVision, I'm like, what the hell did I just watch? And I had to have something, somebody that has a little bit more depth in the lore of what they were trying to explain it to me. And I think it's a good thing. I agree with you that I think that Fallout should have been released over 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Um,
I think there'd be more
Similar to-
mystery between episodes that you would want to seek out that lore as opposed to knowing that, like, oh, I got the
I
next
could just
episode.
watch it and it'll answer the question. Yeah, I get you on that one. But I still didn't feel that way of like where I walked away like, huh. Like I walked away more wanting to know what's happening next, not to want to have what happened explained to me better. Now maybe, it'll still tie together like that. So but overall, I'm again, as this conversation is fascinating because you love Fallout, the games, and you've enjoyed playing them, and I haven't touched them. So this is where Michael and I's dynamic is always really, really good on certain things because there's things that we're parallel on, and then there's things that we're on the opposite world on. So.
Yeah, no, and this is one of those things where I think over the years, people that have been listening to me for a while know that like I love Fallout, but there's been a decline. Post 4 and into 76, and also just go on.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I also just wonder if Todd Howard was done with trying to tell the stories in a video game.
I know it's funny because they're like, oh, after the next Elder Scrolls, we'll make another Fallout game, and I'm like, Phil Spencer, please save us. Like,
yeah,
especially like a lot of people were worried about like, oh, they're gonna retcon New Vegas because that's not the Bethesda Fallout game, or they're gonna retcon 1 and 2 because those aren't Bethesda Fallout games, and to their credit, they've included a ton of shit. They like retconned one thing, and in the grand scheme of things, I wasn't upset by it. Like I was, I was fine.
Yeah, let me ask you, as a very big Fallout fan, do you want Fallout 5 or do you want 5 seasons of this?
I think this is so ripe for like I was gonna say exploitation, but like this is ripe for like doing like Vault of the Week shit, and I think that is more fruitful than here's another Fallout game that we have to wait however many years for. That's gonna just be in one area because video games can only handle so much size and depth. To where this show could last a while, and you could.
They could do an episode on Vaults 1 through 40 or whatever.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like,
There's 120
Vault
vaults
1,
out
Vault
there.
2. Yeah, I don't know. See, I don't know that.
And and the games take place all across the country to where you could revisit each like. They showed some stuff at the end of season 2 where I'm like, that's cool because that's tied to some of the games, and they have like 4 or 5 games that they could do that with, to where it's like, hey, let's revisit the Capital Wasteland for a season, and they could just. Walter Goggins, I don't know Lucy and Maximus's actors' names, but if they're like, hey, we're out, that doesn't hurt the show because they're like, guess what? We have 120 vaults to choose from. Yeah. We can grab another vault dweller.
And an entire wasteland.
Yeah. So I think I would be fine if the quality stays as good as this first season, of course.
Yeah.
We've seen, Witcher's coming back for season 5.
They've greenlit season 2 already. They didn't date it, obviously. Yeah. So, and then I would expect this one, season 2, to be week by week.
Like I think they would have, because there's just so much incentive to do that at this point. I don't think they were expecting it to be as big as it came. And I was talking
on the heels of 3 video game shows in a row that are, I would call, above average. Like
no,
average to above average. Last of Us, Fallout, and Twisted Metal.
Yeah, and Twisted Metal was a surprise, and I think we're getting a season 2 for Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
The thing that was funny though when I was watching the show, because because of stuff that like happens where like, remember Game of Thrones was like the biggest show in the world, and then as it got more expensive, it got harder to produce, and then it started to look worse because of that. Fallout has the benefit of like every area is going to look the same because it's just a wasteland.
I mean, vaults are vaults. Yeah, vaults are vaults. You can make them look pretty or bad based on projections.
Yeah, and the funny thing is all the vaults are produced by one company, and they're the exact same blueprint.
Yeah.
So literally all they have to do is change like furniture around. And I think they did that at one point in the show where like, they're like, oh, look, we're in a new vault. And it's like the wallpaper was different. Yeah. And it was just like, but that was fine.
The desks were by the front door instead of by the back door.
Yeah, and this is something that they could take advantage of and like kind of get more bang for their buck, because like all the sets are already built.
Mm-hmm.
They just have to redecorate furniture.
Right.
They did. There's still a lot of like creatures that they don't explore in the show, which I was surprised, but they must have been pretty confident. Like, we're getting to season 2.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool stuff that they are still holding in their back pocket, which is really cool, because I was expecting them to just kind of, blow their load in terms of like, hey, here's this cool thing from the games, here's this cool thing from the games. There's still so much they can explore. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that got me playing Fallout New Vegas. Sarah, who's like, she played Fallout 3 a little bit, and so she was like super fascinated by all this, and I was kind of filling in the gaps of like, this is how it ties into New Vegas, this is how it ties into some of the end of Fallout 3, to where she's been playing like Fallout Shelter on her phone.
Okay.
Because they tied that mobile game into the show. You can unlock those characters from the show in your Fallout Shelter game. Yeah. She's playing New Vegas, because New Vegas is one of the Fallout games she completely skipped. And now I'm waiting for Fallout 4 next week. So,
and you're saying for me, if I was going to pick up and play anything right now, you're saying 76.
I think the gameplay would probably hold your interest better, because it's not hardcore like dialogue picking story stuff. New Vegas is pretty standalone. Honestly, to give you the best experience, I would say Fallout 76 or Fallout 4.
Fallout 76 or what? I'm sorry?
Fallout 4,
okay.
Which is getting the patch next week.
Yeah.
Because New Vegas has its issues. Man, playing New Vegas on a Series X was a pain in the ass, because the Xbox 360 account management stuff was giving me problems for some reason. And Fallout 3 feels like a game that came out 19 years ago, so like that one is probably, Fallout 3 and New Vegas are hands down like the two best Fallout games for me, but they have aged somewhat poorly. So for you, I would say either Fallout 76, because I think that gameplay loop and mechanics would work for the style games you like. Okay. And then Fallout 4 is modern, so it will be easier to jump into. Okay. And the good thing is they're all pretty standalone.
Yeah.
Timeline stuff will get kind of weird. You'll be like, how does this fit in the timeline? And I'm like, well, Fallout 76 is 50 years after the bombs drop. Yeah. And Fallout 4 is 200 years after the bombs drop. So yeah.
Where does the show fit in the timeline right now, currently?
It continues it. So this is the latest
after
in
4,
the timeline.
after the events of 4.
After 4.
Okay.
It's like 15 years, 10 years, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You been playing anything else?
No. It's just been a lot of Fallout stuff. My TikTok is ruined because it's just Fallout stuff. Because there's like 120 vaults, so like it's very easy for TikTokers to be like, let me tell you about this vault, and then you just kind of fall down that rabbit hole. But yeah, it's just watching basketball games here and there, watching wrestling sometimes.
The Bulls are hanging on. They're trying to hang on.
Yeah, and Jimmy Butler hurt, so he won't play in the next game, so they'll be lucky enough to face...
Friday night, I think they play. Right,
yeah, and then they can face the Boston Celtics and
get rolled.
Yeah, just absolutely.
And your coach is staying. There was a chance that your coach was going to leave. I don't know if you noticed that.
I would have been happy if he left, because he's fucking terrible.
The Kentucky basketball position came open, and he played there, and he coached there.
Yeah, Billy Donovan was fantastic as a coach with Florida.
Correct.
I think he won his titles. He should go back, because he's had better luck in college than he did in the NBA. But then again, the Bulls Sox owner is such a trash owner that I don't know if there would be an upgrade from what Billy Donovan currently does. It would just be a downgrade again, and dark times.
All right. So
and the White Sox don't exist.
Just gonna start rocking some Cubs gear, huh?
No, God, no. I'm just not gonna watch baseball. I'm gonna be a Charlotte Knights fan. I'm gonna be a AAA fan of the White Sox.
Yeah, Toledo Mud Hens for the Tigers too. So
Charlotte.
Yeah. So questions and comments. It doesn't appear that we got any this week. So please be sure to send those. Either post them in the Discord server under the hashtag AskDigitalDays. Post them on the Facebook group. or just tweet them at us. Same thing, using the same hashtag. Tweet them at Michael, tweet them at me, tweet them at the main account. You can do any of those. We would love to hear you guys' thoughts of what you want us to talk about. And, as always, even ideas of news stories that you come across, because, sometimes, especially with the way Twitter's been functioning, there's stuff that we both miss. It happens all the time. So please, if you see
there
something,
was a Nintendo Indie World, but I watched it and I was just
I watched some cool Xbox sizzle reel that I saw. Like, I didn't even know Brothers: A Tale of Arms is getting remastered.
Did you see the art style? They kind of changed the art style.
Yeah, I know, but I was like, at first I was watching the whole trailer. I'm like, is this Game Pass stuff? I'm like, what is this? So then I was like, now I need to go back and rewatch it and like write down like 2 or 3 games, because I saw 2 or 3 things on there I was interested in.
Yeah.
But those things kind of just show up now on your YouTube feeds or on trailers or on Twitch and Twitter, and they can easily be missed. So anything that you guys come across that you think is worthy of us talking about, we're always looking for topics. So please feel free to send them. Topics, questions, any of those things. So same thing. The Twitter account at Digital Days Pod, Michael's account at the First MJC, my account at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group is there, Discord server's there, Patreon's there. All those things. If you want to support us that way, it's those are all fully optional. Listening and downloading the show is free and is always helpful. Following on Twitch is free. That's helpful. Subscribing on YouTube is free. Just subscribing to the podcast in general, downloading the show, those things are all free. If there's other ways that you want to support us, you can check that out in the show notes. We will record next week, and then we will probably take what Michael and I think are calling late spring break.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a late spring break due to slow news, some personal conflicts, in that order. I think it's a little bit, we're just going to kind of take a little breather and get ready for, Summer Games Fest and stuff to ramp up. My daughter is graduating college, so that's part of a factor, and I think Michael's going to be out of town or busy, and we could always record, but at the same time I think that him and I are both ready to kind of just chill out for a little bit and just kind of reset ourselves as well.
Rushing an episode in between of all the traveling we have to do in 2 weeks is just not going to work out.
And sometimes we're fishing for news, he's putting bullet points on there of what the PS5 Pro might do. That's the kind of world we're in right now. So
the only thing is, me and Dave did agree, if something big drops like a PlayStation showcase,
if somebody gets purchased,
we will do a mini episode or do what we got to do.
Yeah.
But
we're not gonna suffer in silence, but it's got to have to be pretty big to the point of where it'll give some of you guys a chance to catch up. Stefan, I'm sure I'm talking to you in like 2026, but you'll still have a chance to catch up. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great week.